Good evening. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Jerry Wood, and I am the current captain of Ladder 28 in Harlem, New York. This company and firehouse have a ton of history and tradition of the FDNY running through it, and there is a large sense of pride by all that call it home. Be it current or former members, this place takes a ton of pride in what we do, and we do all we can to help the neighborhood we serve. Which brings us to tonight. I would like to thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to come and address you all with this plan that I have been working very hard on. There's a Community Risk Reduction Plan, or CRR, as I may refer to it later on. It's a plan we have devised to address a risk that we have selected as a highly dangerous condition in this area and throughout New York City itself. For the past 3 years, I've worked in Ladder 28, and in that period I've been on thousands of calls for a wide array of reasons, and I've learned a lot about the area. There are plenty of guys here in this company and firehouse that were here before me, so at the start of this mission, on top of my personal knowledge, I asked these members for some input on what they thought would be an important topic to address, as well as speaking to members of the community while we were out on runs throughout this time frame as well. I mentioned to the members what I was thinking and what I thought was a hot topic that needed addressing, and they all agree with me that rapidly increasing fires started or caused by e-bikes and their batteries are on such a dramatic increase that as of November of this year, they are set to double from the year prior, and that is only a small time frame the department and the city have decided to begin tracking this information. The idea behind this CRR was to identify a risk that posed a great threat to the people of the community that needed to be addressed before it was too late. I chose to look at and work up a CRR plan for e-bike battery fires and the damage that these fires can impose on the neighborhood if left unchecked. These fires can cause harm in a multitude of ways, such as damage to the building where the fire occurred, possibly injuring or killing people from the building, raising the cost of an insurance premium due to fires in the building, and if the bike is damaged and the building is not, it's also possible the loss of the bike could leave a lasting economic impact on the owner if that is their only means of transportation. Also, the storage of these bikes pose another threat. Oftentimes, these bikes are stored in hallways, blocking a means of secondary exit should the building catch on fire or some other emergency where the occupants have to flee in a hurry. The purpose of this summary tonight is to show you what I was thinking and how I got from the original thought to a fully functional plan that would address the risk I had identified as an issue worth all of this effort. Let me start off by saying these concepts were new to me for sure, and the more I read and studied through this topic, the more I understood the basis of this plan. Definitely lots of work, but worth the effort in the end if even just one life can be saved from being lost due to these damaging, rapidly moving fires. Ultimately, the goal is to take you through this thought process as I learned and evolved to show you how this CRR plan came to fruition, from original thought to full plan and all the in-between to get me there. Choosing the topic to base this risk on was not a hard one for me. As I mentioned earlier, I base this topic on personal knowledge from myself, as well as speaking with members of the department and members of the community that we are sworn to serve and protect. The tough part would be finding all the research, data, demographics to prove my thoughts to the many elected officials of the area and to secure the funding needed. While it might be small, everything is getting cut back these days, so trying to make a CRR plan without incurring a great need for funding would be another hurdle I would have to overcome. Using the data of FD responses, demographics for the neighborhood that we serve would all serve as the starting point for this data. As the CRR plan continued to grow, they would have a baseline to consider when looking at data collected during the operational period of this plan. As we set up the evaluation process to ensure the CRR plan was operating as intended, this information would be vital, so we had a starting point to compare with. Otherwise, the entire idea of this plan would be null and void. To start out the mitigation process, I focus on the 5 E's: education, engineering, enforcement, economic incentive, and emergency response. The CRR plan would involve each step of this process of the 5 E's, some of them more than others, but all involved nonetheless. Education was the easiest to address immediately. We would begin by making pamphlets to hand out to the public describing safe care and maintenance of these bikes and the dangers that fires caused by these bikes can create. On top of that, the department will create, record, and distribute a public safety announcement for TV, as well as on every social media platform the department has access to. Engineering is something that, with time, might become a reality, but it is quite the uphill battle. We have to convince the manufacturer to eliminate the cheap, poorly made replacement battery as an option when the original battery has run its course and is in need of replacement. Enforcement is something I will have to work on with Fire Prevention Bureau as well as NYPD and work out an escalating fine scale for offenders with these bikes. And if they continue to violate the regulations that we set forth, the fines will increase up to and including confiscation of their bikes. Their bikes also will be confiscated awaiting their payment for the imposed fines. If they do not pay, the department keeps their bike and will publicly auction it off, creating a revenue stream that can help offset the cost of this community risk reduction plan that we have set up. Economic incentives that I have suggested with the plan would be providing a tax break for building owners if they are willing to front the cost of installing and maintaining outside charging stations, where people can charge their entire bike or just bike battery depending on the size of the setup, along with this setup having a fully operational sprinkler system. Should a fire occur, the sprinkler will extinguish the small fire before it becomes a big one. While the initial cost might seem excessive, if we provide the owners with a tax break, for argument's sake, for the following 10 years, then the initial cost does not seem so excessive. Emergency response is the 5th and final piece of this puzzle. Through speaking with the decision makers of the department, we will adjust the response to these fires when it is confirmed fire caused by a battery from these bikes. When the fire is confirmed, they will dispatch a full response from the Hazardous Material Battalion, and their highly trained members will respond to the scene and decide the safest approach to remove the batteries that started this fire, as the chance of fire relighting minutes, hours, or even days later is highly possible with these batteries, especially if the battery has been severely compromised. The ideas expressed here are all well thought out, and the members and civilians I polled agree with the choices made, and these solutions are far from being the end-all to this problem. That is the basis of the evaluations, both quarterly and annually, with varying attendance depending on the meeting and topic. These tactics can adapt and change as people see fit, but it is a good starting point for all involved, with the possibility to adjust as needed, as I said. The plan would only be successful with the help of all involved on this committee, and they would be elected officials from the neighborhood, community activists, community groups, and leaders of the community, as well as the NYPD, community board members, and their leaders as well. With all of their assistance, a meeting both quarterly and annually to look over results and tactics and to adjust as we all see fit, this CRR plan will be a successful one that the rest of the city can model their plans after. I do not believe this CRR plan will eliminate these fires completely, but I do believe that this plan and legislation that we will be working hard for as well will dramatically cut down the amount of instances these fires should occur. That in itself will be considered a win in my book. As long as there is a reduction in fires started due to these bikes, less civilian injuries and/or deaths, less property damage due to this decreasing occurrence of fires in these buildings as well. The ultimate goal is to create a safer version of the batteries for these bikes, eliminate the cheaper, poorly produced replacement bike batteries, and to limit the amount of times these fires will occur and limit property damage as a result. We are not going to eliminate it completely, but with hard work, there should be a noticeable decrease in these fires, and we will be creating a safer city for all of us, the civilians and all of the city employees that work here as well. I would like to thank you for allowing me time to come and address this board, and I look forward to working with you to ensure this community risk reduction plan is successful on all accounts.